Hello and welcome to the Star Wars Shatterpoint tournament recap for the Struggle at Dark Sphere episode number 13 event that ran on the 21st of February 2026. I'm your host Steve, and join me as I look back over the event and talk through my games and experience. So to get started, I'd just like to say thank you to Louis for running another nice relaxed event. There were 22 people in attendance, which was absolutely brilliant to see. And as we look at the primary unit breakdown, we can already see that there is a marked difference between this event and the one that I attended in Swindon earlier in the year. And that is that Cassian has only been brought by 5 of the 22 players, and Boss has only been brought twice by 2 of the 22 players brought Boss. So this is a vast difference in the meta that we saw at the Swindon event. And I draw your attention over here to the unused primaries, where we've only got 7 unused primaries. That's Grievous, Luminara, CT, Hera, Lando, Chirpa, and no, it's not Chirpa, Logray, and Luke. Which is fantastic to see. So already this is a completely different meta, and okay, there are a handful of primaries that were only brought by one player, played once, etc. But it's fantastic to see such a wide array of primaries featured at the event. And as we move in to look at my list, I will be talking through the decisions as to why I brought what I did. But I was expecting a lot higher number of Cassian and Boss at this event. So as we look over my lists, you can see that they are, whilst being Galactic Republic, and yes, that does include Darth Vader Jedi Hunter, they are vastly different from what I've been playing previously. So as you can see in Squad 1, I've got Plo Koon, Shakti and the 501st. Then I've got Squad 2 of Ki-Adi-Mundi, Obi-Wan and the 212th. And then Squad 3 is Vader, Rex and the Padawans. And then Squad 4 is Kit Fisto, Pons, and Sev and Scorch. And the mission was, yet again, First Contact, as I fancied playing it again, given the fact that I didn't get a chance to play it at all at the Swindon event. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen that video. So, my reasoning with these squads were as follows. So, first of all, squad number 1 and squad number 2, I had intended to play these as a side-by-side, as a counter to Cassian, and as a slight counter to Boss as well. Now, the reason why is because of the amount of force push that is available, and Obi-Wan Kenobi's Jedi mind trick, and also the coordinated fire pin and the coordinated fire strain. So all those things combining, I felt that they would do very well against Cassian and Boss, and I had actually played nearly this exact list into Cassian and had some success a couple of times. So I thought that my squads 1 and 2 would be really well suited to tackle or potentially tackle some of those squads that are dominating the meta at the moment. Then squad number 3 is one that I had wanted to try, so Vader with the Padawans, because with the Vader dice and then the Padawans getting the heal off, it's pretty good, and then Rex is just amazing. And then squad 4 is one that I'd seen knocking around on the internet a little bit, with Kit Fisto, Pons and 7 Scorch, because you get that forward deployment with Pons and 7 Scorch, and 7 Scorch obviously so good at the moment in the game. And also I had wanted to show off my new Kit Fisto. So let me pull up an image. And here he is. So Kit Fisto there, slightly out of focus unfortunately, is one of my best painted models in my opinion. And also as part of winning the local league that I am a part of, the first place was a top 4 Kit Fisto foil card and also the acrylic Kit Fisto card there as well. So I really wanted to just give him a run out, and I think he's an absolutely fantastic and loads of fun to play character in the game as well. So yeah, I will be talking more about that, but that was really the primary reason to bring him to the event, which I think is absolutely a valid one. So, going into the event, my intention had been, as I say, to run the Plo Koon and Ki-Adi-Mundi list, ideally 3 times, as I really do enjoy this list a lot, and I thought it was going to do very well into Boss and Cassian, and then run the Vader and the Kit Fisto list, which I hadn't actually run together prior to the event. I had a couple of games lined up, practice games lined up, but unfortunately those have been cancelled due to real-life situations, so I hadn't got any reps in with the Vader and Kit list, but that had been my intention. So let's dive into the event and see how I got on. So my round 1 opponent was Dan, and Dan had brought Sabotage Showdown along with Anakin Skywalker, Captain Rex and the 501st, Obi-Wan, Cody and the 212th. Then he'd said that he'd brought a second mission with the other squads, but we talked that through, so it was shifting priorities with Ahsoka, Bo-Katan, and the Clan Kryze, and then Maul, Gar Saxon, and the Super Commandos. So yeah, we rolled off, and at the beginning, Dan was telling me how he was quite new to the game. And he was really interested in playing on First Contact, as he'd never had a chance to play on it before. So I said, that's absolutely fine. If you're happy to play on First Contact, we will play on First Contact. So we did. And he decided that he was going to run Ahsoka, Bo-Katan and the Clan Kryze, along with Maul, Gar Saxon and the Super Commandos. So let me pull up the first image. So here is a slightly out of focus, I'm afraid, image of the squads there, and I must apologise profusely to Dan and also you watching at home, as I was so excited by starting the first game that I completely forgot that I am a content creator and that I need to take images throughout the games. And it was only at the start of round 2, as I started to play my opponent in round 2, I realised with horror that I had taken no photographs during the match versus Dan, and so that's why I got this quick photo here, and then I've got a nice one of the terrain that we were playing on, which was absolutely stunning. And as you can see here, the terrain just beautiful. This lovely rusty coloured kind of gantries and stuff looked absolutely beautiful. It was a real pleasure to play on, and this is me just sneaking a photo while the people were just setting up in and starting the game in round 2. I said, oh, can I just quickly dive in and grab a photo there? So yes, unfortunately no photos for this round to talk through the game, and I'm very sorry about that, but there are images for the rest of them. But yes, big apologies, Dan, as the game was fantastic. So to kind of go through it, Struggle 1 started very fast out the blocks for me. So due to the way the terrain had been laid out, and Dan possibly being slightly newer to the game, he hadn't maybe optimised his positioning on Struggle 1, and so we got the playing card 5 symbol there for the First Contact, and I was first player, and I was able to actually take control of 3 points, and he had 0 under his control at the start of the first turn. So very quickly it went score 1, then I scored 3, and then score 2, and then I scored 3 again, and so I was really able to kind of build momentum, build the tempo through the game, and take Struggle 1 quite comfortably. There was some wounding going on. There were a few units that did get hurt early on, but it was very much a kind of move and hunker from me, just to try and keep the tempo going, and just score quickly and get myself through Struggle 1 quite efficiently and quite smoothly. In the centre point of the 5, we did have a bit of a scrap. We had Maul go in, we had Pons go in, we had Bo-Katan appear up there as well, so the steadfast bubble coming into play. But yes, I was able to squeeze out the first struggle reasonably comfortably. However, it was at this point in the game that I really started to realise the limitations of the list that I had brought. And so if we think back to my list, I've got Vader and Kit Fisto, who are both fantastic primary units. They are absolutely brilliant. However, Vader on his first activation wasn't able to actually wound anyone, as I was about 2 millimeters out from being in range of Maul on Vader's activation, and Vader probably would have killed Maul. And also, very early doors, I wasn't able to use any of the Vader dice for the first whole of the deck, because no one was in melee range. I wasn't engaging in combat and able to use Vader's dice, really. So that was definitely a difficult point there. But the real sticking point for the list that I discovered was that both Kit Fisto and Vader don't move other people. And Galactic Republic really needs you to be able to move other units with your primaries. And this is something where I think that if I had been able to get a practice game in, as I say, I would have wanted to run that list in my practice game if I could have done before the event. I think I would have discovered discovered that, and I probably wouldn't have taken that pairing. I really enjoyed the Kit Fisto and Pons side of things. I thought the tempo out the doors was brilliant. The forward deployment from Pons, meaning 7 Scorch could deploy further forward, was immediately of use. And Kit Fisto was just darting around the board. I mean, I had a lovely play where I stole one of the back points on Dan's right-hand side back point in Struggle 1, just because I was able to move Kit Fisto all the way over there with one activation. Boom, 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 and then there we go. I've taken that back point from you. He is just so quick. It's such a lovely part of the list. But I think he would do well to pair with someone like Kiadimundi or Plo Koon that can just move other people around as well. Because yes, I think having both primaries unable to move the other units on the board, that certainly hurt me a lot. You know, Pons and Rex both being able to move units was good. But yeah, I felt I really struggled in that aspect. Then moving into Struggle 2, we then hit the flipping points in First Contact, where we can flip the cards, and Dan got the hang of this really quickly. I thought he played really well. There were times when he used momentum, times when he used force, and it was really good there. But I was very close a couple of times to kind of seeing out the game in 2 struggles. But Dan dug deep, and with Mission Critical called, was able to get the second struggle done, and in his favour. And then we moved into Struggle 3, and again, I thought Dan played this brilliantly. We went back and forth. There was a load of really good interactions, lots of thinking, and Mission Critical again it had been called, and we were moving ever closer. And with the tournament organizer looming over my shoulder as much as Louis can loom, Dan was able to actually clinch the win exactly by scoring 3 points. With a really good card flip, played for the card flip, got a really good one, scored 3, and then with the Mission Critical was able to sneak the win. So absolutely fantastic result there for Dan, and a really lovely game, and we had a lot of conversation as well. So yeah, really lovely guy, and very new to the game, but has definitely picked it up nice and quickly. And yeah, I thought it was fantastic, and yeah, really well done. And yeah, really fun game overall. I think if I was going to replay the game again, would I play the game again with the same lists? Yes, I would. Given the list choices I made, I think this was the correct choice as well, given that the majority of the units were core box units. I think that was the right choice. 7 Scorch did some good work in the game. We had Ahsoka with a strain on for ages, meaning that she couldn't do her revenge. We kind of kept Ahsoka in place and under control. You know, we were a couple of points away from wounding a few more units occasionally. But yeah, I was happy with the way the list played against the list that Dan had brought, and it went kind of as I would expect, maybe, and I think on a slightly different day, perhaps I would get the win in that round 1, and then that would be that list played, and then I could play the Plo Koon and Kiadi list going forward. But overall, I think that the Vader side of the list paired with the Kit Fisto side of the list just doesn't work, because you've got 2 primary units that are unable to move anyone else. So, moving on to round 2, and it was a Steve off as I was playing versus Steve Pryor, someone who has been to many events that I've been there as well, and we hadn't had the chance to play each other yet, so that was nice to get a Steve off. And he had brought Anakin, Ahsoka, and the Arfs, Padme, Pons, and 7 Scorch, so it's kind of similar to my build there, but with Padme instead. And I think that would be another interesting list to try, again, because at least Padme can move someone else. And then the other half of his list was Mace Windu, Obi-Wan out of hiding and the Padawans, and Kiadi-Mundi, Shakti, and the 501st. So very, very similar to my build, so almost the same units on the board there, and he had brought Never Tell Me the Odds. Now, I did win the roll this time, and I decided that we would play on First Contact, and as it turned out, we were going to be facing each other with the Mace Windu, Obi-Wan and Padawans, and Kiadi-Mundi, Shakti, and Clone Troopers versus my Plo and Kiadi lists. So, let's have a look at the board. So here we can see the board just after my deployment. And I've got Shakti moving up as Kiadi-Mundi was my first pull, and Kiadi made his way and took the centre point because, again, we got the playing card number 5 to start the game. And then began the most crazy sequence of card pulls, as it was very much anything Steve can do better, as our card pulls almost mirrored each other over the next few turns. And here we can see Steve's Kiadi-Mundi, who had force-pushed my Kiadi-Mundi backwards away off that point and taken it to score 3. I then got Shakti, who then properly moved in, and Kiadi came with her, and we then scored that middle point there to score 3. And then on the next card, we see Steve's Shakti, who has force-pushed away force repulsed away all the other units there from the middle of the board. That was either the Shatterpoint or the Shakti card. I can't remember exactly, but it was almost mirroring. And the middle point was very, very hotly contested, as we can see from the next image. And this is a little bit later in the game where my 212 came in, and then I think we had a Shatterpoint activation where there was Shakti again, who then pushed other people away again. So it was really a really highly contested center point, just again and again and again, and we were having so much fun. And what was really interesting about this game throughout was the lack of wounds that we were doing on each other. We were really relying on the shoves and the force pushes and the force repulses to take control of the points. And it was a really different way of playing the game. And here's another shot of the scrum in the middle. But as the struggle kind of went on, in the end, other Steve was able to take the advantage and break the parity on the 3 and 3s and take struggle 1. Then struggle 2 started, and I was not necessarily quickly able, but I did start to gain a bit of tempo in the second struggle. And there was a lot of manoeuvring pieces around. Here's one where Plo Koon was eventually outnumbered, but I'd moved Plo Koon in to take the point and do the force push and get Shakti away. So it was a really tight second struggle, and then again exactly the same thing in the third struggle, but it was just possibly slightly better positioning for the mission on my part. And again, I think we hit mission critical, and at the end that was kind of what tipped the balance there. So yes, I was able to, I think I scored a couple of 4-pointers in the game, and was just able to win the Battle of the Steves. So 2-1 on struggles, but 3-3 on wounds. But a really, really fascinating game of Shatterpoint, and Steve was a really lovely opponent. Friends with Dan, who I played in round 1, and yeah, it was such a pleasant experience. I had 2 really lovely games back to back, very different styles of games, and in particular, this second one was a real puzzler, and it was so much fun to be playing the game with force pushes, and not looking for damage to be the be all and end all, in terms of the match and the match result. So yeah. A 2-1 win to me, putting me on 1-1 going into round 3. And round 3 was against Sam, and Sam had brought Annie, Rex and the 501st, along with Hunter, Wrecker and the 212th, and then Kit, Wolf and the Wolf Pack, and then Kiadi-Mundi, Ahsoka and the Commandos on Never Tell Me the Odds. Now, Sam won the roll-off, and decided that he was going to also play on First Contact, which I thought was brilliant. And he brought his Annie list and his Hunter list. So let's have a look at the board. And here we can see it. It's a lovely snowy themed board. And this is just a little bit into the first prior to the first turn of the game, or Annie's just moved on the first turn. We've got the arrow, which is pointing towards the right hand side, and that right hand side point was going to become very, very highly contested nice and early on. I chose to run my Kiadi and Plo list again. As I said, I wanted to run that 3 times, and so yeah, I thought this would be a fun list to run into this one, with Obi-Wan's mind trick hopefully being useful in this one as well. Yeah, so let's see how the game kind of progressed. So this is that far right-hand side point that was incredibly contested throughout the first struggle. Hunter was over there for a while. Wrecker was in. We had the 501st. We had the 212 on his side in. Yeah, really, really hotly contested there. And just a lovely point there about my opponent in this match as well. We had a lot of moments in that one where we were measuring things, we were looking at stuff, and there was just that lovely kind of co-op playing that you find in Shatterpoint with so many lovely opponents, where we were just talking things through and saying, oh, do you think you're in? Do you think you're not in? And we were saying, yeah, no, you're in. I'm happy with that. Say that's in. Even if it was a millimeter, and it was felt very very respectful, really really nice, just to kind of have a pleasant interaction there over the board, where you're agreeing with the rules, you're agreeing with what's happening. We talked through a couple of different rules things, no problems at all. It was really, really well mannered. We just wanted to have a good game and get things right ultimately at the end of the day. And with Struggle 1, in the end, I was able to take it. I did kind of break the parity and managed to. We did a few 3-3s again, but in the end, I was able to snag it onto my side and take Struggle 1. And here's just a lovely shot of Kiadi, Obi, and the 212 moving in on Anakin there in the background. We've heard Anakin starting to turn bad, and we're on our way to deal with him. But Struggle 2 was really, really interesting from my perspective. So, very, it was either late on in Struggle 1 or at the very beginning of Struggle 2. My 501st were going to die and be removed from the board on their next activation. So they'd taken an absolute hammering. I think I may have Shatterpointed them, possibly. That's why they had the two wounded tokens on them, or an injured and a wounded token. And I knew that the way that the game was going, my list did not have the firepower to do the damage to this Anakin Hunter list that the Hunter list was doing back at me. Hunter's got the dice manipulation. His clones are putting out the same amount of damage potentially as I can. We've got the same supporting units, but the secondary Rex as a secondary can chuck out a load of damage, whereas my units are not designed for that. We're looking to push people away and play a very positional game. So I realised very, very early on in Struggle 2 that not only was I going to lose Struggle 2 in my mind, I also did not want to lose Struggle 2 and have the 501st leave the table at some point during that struggle. So, I spoke to the opponent at the end and talked through it. But at the time, basically, I was having to play my card. So Kiadi Mundi came up as first card in the deck for the second struggle, and I already knew that I didn't really like the way this second struggle was heading, and I thought to myself, God, I just want to reserve Kiadi, but if I reserve Kiadi and then the 501st appear, I'm going to have to lose them off the table. So what I decided to do, and it was possibly quite a bold move, was I actually used Kiadi to move Shakti off an objective, and then Kiadi left an objective and went to go and hunt Rex down, who's just in the kind of the middle left bit of this image that we see on the screen. And I deliberately scored 0 that turn because I wanted to lose the second struggle really, really quickly because I just did not have the attrition power. As it transpired, this didn't actually matter because the 501st were at the bottom of the order deck. So by the time they rolled round, it would have been okay anyway. But that's obviously hindsight 2020 there. But yeah, so it was a very interesting tactical decision. Unfortunately, in the process of trying to kill Rex, and wound Rex in this struggle, I did end up taking a point that meant that the because I couldn't position myself to be I needed with the 212 I wanted to shoot at Rex, but I had to be out of engagement with both Annie and Rex to shoot at him, and the only way I could do that was by taking the objective that was lit up at that point in time. So yeah, really interesting one there. So it did drag on a little bit, but yes, the second struggle went the way of Sam, and then we moved into struggle 3. And Struggles 3 saw a lot of cagey movement. So as you can see, Rex had positioned himself beautifully there between 2 points. So if either of those becomes active, he will take it. And during Struggle 3, I think I Shatterpointed Ki-Adi-Mundi to go and finish Rex off and stand behind him where he was in this image. Obi in this one dropped down to the back corner point there to take that one. But as is sometimes the way in First Contact, whilst there were cards that were definitely playing in my favour, there was one that was certainly playing in Sam's favour, and we hit the stage with Mission Critical called, where Sam looked at the board and went, right, I'm gonna have to go for this and try and get it. And basically he needed the coin flip, 50-50 coin flip on whether he was going to get the card that he needed to win the game. And here with what I think is a dead Plo Koon, or just a revived Plo Koon, and Rex and the 212 taking that at that point regardless, Sam was able to get the flip and take the most extreme 4 corner points there and squeak the win versus the list. But it was an absolutely fantastic game. Again, really big thank you to Sam for such a pleasant game. I really enjoyed it. It was tough. It was, there was lots of tactical thinking in there. It was a not necessarily mentally taxing game as maybe some games can be. But it was really exciting, right the way down to the wire. And yeah, my choice as to whether I could keep the 501st on the board or not. As it turned out, there they are, still alive, because I didn't actually get to the last card in the order deck, which was the 501st. So possibly in hindsight, I could have fought harder in Struggle 2. But yeah, as it turned out, that's just the way it goes sometimes. But yeah, really big well done there to Sam. Fantastic game. And that unfortunately puts me on 1 and 2 going into the final game of the day. And the final round saw me playing versus Maya. And she had brought Cassian, K2 and the Rebel Commandos, General Solo, Bodhi Rook and Baze and Chirrut, so very strong Rebels list there. And then the other list was Leia, 3PO and the Ewok Trappers, Chirpa, Wicket and the Ewok Hunters. Now, I kind of suspected that I knew what she would be playing, as the Ewok list had featured very early on and then never been seen again, and it was indeed Cassian, K2, Rebel Commandos, Solo, Bodhi and Baze and Chirrut. So let's have a look at the board. And here we can see the start of Struggle 1. So unfortunately, I lost the roll-off here. And Maya, although enjoying First Contact sometimes, said I would rather not use the brain power on Game 4 of the event. And so instead we played on the Sabotage Showdown, so the Death Donut. There's Plo Koon looking down over this kind of crashed spaceship in maybe what's got a bit of a feel for Tatooine kind of feel board. We got K2 on the march, the Rebel Commandos there taking 1 point, and Cassian lurking in the background. So, this was a very interesting test for my Plo Koon and Ki-Adi-Mundi list. So, as I said before, I have had some success versus Cassian and the kind of revenge list with this particular build. However, as I kind of alluded to in the previous game, the list does have quite a big downside, which is the damage output aspect. So, with the Vader and Ki-Adi-Mundi list that we've seen, that one can hit like a train, because you've got the Vader dice coming in. You're adding in dice. You're getting further down your tree. But the Plo Koon and Ki-Adi build that I've got is really around stopping the opponent doing what they want to do, but with the tempo of a very highly aggressive list, you kind of can't mitigate it entirely. And this is what Maya brought to the table, and I will give absolute full credit because it was a fantastic tactic. the sheer aggression of the list facing me. At one point in Struggle 1, Maya scored 5 against me. 5 points against me. Now I've managed to score 6 before. I've done a 6-pointer on the Death Donut before, with a very aggressive Ewok list. But it's very rare that you see a 5-pointer so early on in the game, and I almost immediately knew that this game was, or certainly the struggle was slipping away from me. And yet, both my supports were down, so my coordinated fire, even when I was attacking, I couldn't really do much with the coordinated fire. And this kind of alleyway area, as we can see here, with Han, Baze, and Chirrut, with Bodhi lurking in the back there, that alleyway was actually going to prove a really big contesting point a little bit later in the game. So yeah, Struggle 1 absolutely just completely ran away from me, and I kind of cut my losses nice and quick and thought to myself, right, let's restabilize and look at Struggle 2. And in Struggle 2, we had 2 really hotly contested points. So, of the 3 that came up as active, I chose to go with the kind of diagonal, almost, that ran with the bottom point being on my left corner, where Plo Koon was on top of the building that we've seen already. So that was the bottom point. Then the middle point was active, and then this far right-hand side point of the donut, the one that's just through that alleyway, that's where you can see the bottom of the gantry on the bottom right of the screen there. That alleyway there, this was the kind of the stickiest point of the struggle. So, Bodhi was on that point for a long time, and in the end, I just had to go and kill Bodhi, because whilst I had control of Plo Koon's point on the right-hand side, because no one was getting up there to take Plo Koon off, and Plo Koon had a jump on his expertise as well to boot, so even if he had been shoved off eventually, needing 2 shoves, even if he had been shoved off, there was still a chance that he would just jump back on and stay on that point again. And the middle point, which I will show you here. Here it is, ended up being an absolute scrum in the end, with, you can see, loads of units, and there were more units around that out of shot. I was desperately hoping for a Shaq T pull on this one, as that would have been a heck of a force repulse there, because the sequencing, of course, would see me take complete control of that objective again, without too much issue. But ultimately, the second struggle, whilst it was quite evenly balanced for a while, unfortunately, what happened was Baze and Chirrut came back, and in the previous image, the one with Baze and Chirrut and Obi-Wan, they took back control of that objective, and it was that objective that just kept on being rolled as the priority. So time and time again, Maya was definitely scoring 2, and it just slipped through my fingers. So yes, it was sadly a 2-0 loss in round 3. But as I've said already, big congratulations to Maya on this one. I thought the game was really well played, but ultimately I think that my list really did struggle against the super aggressive attrition. So previously, I think this list would be all right with boss, but if Obi-Wan fires in the right way, and you really are able to get Obi-Wan positioned in the right space, you can shut down Delta Dice with Obi-Wan disarming there. But with no attrition back, I think that this wasn't quite right yet. So I will continue to experiment with the list and see what I can do, because I think that whilst this list did okay against Cassian in my kind of play testing, I think the hyper aggression that was brought at the event, and certainly with Maya playing in this manner versus me with Cassian and Han, that's where it kind of all fell apart there. But yeah, absolutely no issue with the loss as such. It's more about working out how I can approach it better next time. So yes, actually quite a sad one, going 1 and 3 there, finishing 19th out of 22 with 4 VPs. So yeah, not the result I was looking for, but certainly a really fun day. I will be doing a full look at the lists, but just to say, well done to Fraser for coming first with the only 4 and 0, and then Ollie 3 and 1, and Jay 3 and 1 to round out the podium. But let's have a little look at a few more of the interesting stats from the event. So just to kick us off, I know I sound like a broken record, I'm banging the drum, but unfortunately only 13 of the 22 players submitted SPT coded lists. So although there were a lot of lists present, they weren't submitted as SPT codes. So unfortunately the data from the characters taken and the missions taken, etc., is completely out of whack. So yeah, not much can be read into that. So again, a plea from me, please do submit your SPT coded lists to events, as it does make these sorts of recaps a lot more interesting. However, I would like to draw the attention to the missions. So these are the games that the missions were played on. So in first place, we can see Sabotage Showdown with 15 games. Then next was First Contact with 10, and then Shifting Priorities with 9, and Never Tell Me the Odds with 8. So again, in the same way as we saw earlier with the primary unit choices, so that really lovely balance, and only 7 primaries unplayed at this event in London at Dark Sphere. Again, we see such a balanced use of the missions, and for those of you who have been looking at the stat center with me, you will know that this is not actually the case, and that Sabotage Showdown and Shifting Priorities have a huge swing in the meta at the moment. So yeah, it's brilliant to see that all the missions are getting the love, and hopefully the new mission that will be dropping very soon will also see the same treatment. And then just finally, out of the games that were played, the first player was winning 56% of the time, and the second player 44%. I raised this as I was having a discussion on the day with a few of the guys there about the benefits of going first or second. So yeah, really interesting to see that actually first player slightly ahead, but it is pretty much a much of a muchness as to whether you win or lose the game. It doesn't really matter whether you go first or second. So, just to round it out, here are my games. As you can see, I got outscored on wounds on every game bar the Steve off, where it was 3-3, as I discussed. So yes, my list's definitely not designed for attrition, really. But yeah, a lovely event. As I say, would happily attend another one. I think these events in London are really nice. Very straightforward for me to get to. And yes, I'm going to the next one in April, I believe. So yeah, hopefully you guys have enjoyed my little recap here. Apologies, it's not maybe as in-depth as the Swindon one previously. I've had a very, very long week of work and a very busy weekend with this event, and then other stuff going on today as well. But yes, yeah, I hope you have enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the like, the subscribe, the follow, etc., etc., etc. And I will be back tomorrow with the Shatterpoint Stats Center, where I will look over the lists that finished top at this event, along with all the others that were played over the weekend. So thank you all very much for watching. I will see you tomorrow, and bye for now.